Hey guys, Taven here at the Quirky Lotus. This is Bucket Friday. We are not going to pay attention to the fact of what day this is because Bucket Friday is about a concept. It's about the moment whenever your world slows down and you get to a space where you just want to connect, right? It's a space where you slow down, the world slows down, obligations slow down, and you just say, okay, I've got something to say and I just want to say it. I want to babble about it for a little bit. That's what we're going to honor. So, I want to talk about my kids today in a roundabout way. I want to talk about my kids in a way that I hope makes you reflect on some things that you may or may not be doing in your own life. Okay? So, I have 5 kids, each one of them so different. Magical, muggle, annoying, absolutely mind boggling and frustrating, but beautiful, So, each one of them in their own special way. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that I think that we all chose each other. I think in our family unit, we chose, to be with each other. I think we chose those things for a reason to help us learn and to help us grow. Um, Not to say it's not frustrating sometimes, but purposeful and meaningful. We are in South Carolina, and the space we're in South Carolina, it's a little stuck. Some things, some belief systems have a harder time expanding and growing. You hear, "Well, I'm just old fashioned," or "I'm just a good old boy," or "I'm just," you hear those comments or a lot, and I think there's so much power in that. It's frustrating. It is absolutely draining sometimes to be in a space like that because you want to see people evolve, you want to see people grow, but sometimes it's just a little bit slower growth than some of us would like, right? So, here in this space, my children are homeschooled now, but they weren't always homeschooled. At some points, some of them have went to school. One of them has never went, to brick school. But they've, experienced the school mentality. They've experienced friends. They've experienced all these things. In our community, we are one of the few pagan families, and we openly have alternative belief systems for the most part, and each one of my children, none of them carry the same beliefs as I do. Uh, None of them carry the same belief. Turn the music down. None of them carry the same beliefs necessarily that I do. We teach them to dig deep. If they ask us a question like, "Are dragons real?" then our response is, "What does your heart tell you?" And so they know universal rules. You don't kill, you don't steal, you don't purposely hurt someone, you don't intend to, inflict harm. Those kinds of things, but we kind of keep them within a boundary space. And in our area, that's a little bothersome to some people, right? That's something that some people say, I don't know how I feel about that. You mean children can have their own opinions? Like you can let them form those early on? I don't know. Within our family unit, there's differences of beliefs and there's differences of thought processes. Our children, for the longest time prior to pulling out of mainstream school and homeschooling, really struggled. Our daughter specifically, she was open. She was a little bit more open about the fact that she was different than her brothers were, and so she had some incidences where people would come to school and they would say, I'm going to pray for you, I'm going to this, I'm going to that. And these children who were just passing on information that they learned from their house, that their parents thought that was important to teach them. What those parents, in my opinion, were missing was the fact of we don't teach ourselves and the little ones in our life and the big ones in our life that it's okay to be different. Not It's okay to be different, right? It's okay to have a difference of beliefs. It's okay to have a difference of opinions. It's okay to not agree. What's not okay is to shut somebody down. Ask questions. Ask questions and try to get to know it so you understand it. We teach our children, and this is kind of the point of what I wanted to talk about. What we teach our kids, we teach the zoo that if you don't understand something, ask. And we also teach them on the reverse side that if somebody asks you something about something they don't understand about you, be willing to hold a conversation in a loving way. Be willing to express yourself. Hold true to your boundaries. Hold true to your truths, but be willing to do so in a way that if that person walks away from you and you are the only conversation in their entire life that they ever have about those differences, they walk away with a deeper understanding and not just a closed off mentality of, well, I just asked them a question and they just, tore me up one side and down the other because I didn't understand their point of view. The zoo had a hard time initially really allowing for people to ask them questions. They had a hard time with how to respond to that. They had a hard time with knowing, what do I say when someone says, well, why don't you go to church every Sunday? Or why do you do circle? Or why are your holidays different than mine? And they would get really frustrated. They were getting frustrated out of a point of they didn't understand that their normal was different than somebody else's normal. So the way that we presented it to them was, don't get frustrated with those questions. They may be annoying to you. They may be questions that you think that everybody should know that. Sometimes when we hold space for just conversations to be had, there is so much power and so much healing. When we sit down across from the table with somebody who is different than us, who culturally may be different than us, who may have been raised in a different part of the world or the country or under a different belief system or just with a different set of family dynamics, what happens is we hold space for them, and if they respond in a healthy way, they can hold space for us too. And we can both walk away, even if we walk away going, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't want to navigate down that rabbit hole. We can walk away with a better understanding. We can also walk away with a healthier relationship and connection with people that have differences than us. That is an important lesson. I think universally, the world needs to hear that lesson. I firmly believe that we are going through so many things right now where, so many different groups of people just feel like they haven't been heard. They feel like nobody is listening to them and they have tried. It's like a toddler throwing a tantrum. If a toddler wants a snack and they can't get those words out, or they get those words out in a way that the adult in their life or the authority figure in their life can't understand it, then they're going to get louder and they're going to throw stuff and they're going to cause more noise because they feel like they haven't been heard. So many of us in all walks of life, in all groups of life, in all dogmas and beliefs and cultures and locations, we're throwing a tantrum right now because we haven't been heard, because we feel like we can't be validated with our emotions. We have to get to a space where we move past what's right and what's wrong. Right and wrong is up to perspective a lot of times. Like we teach the zoo, there are universal truths. There are universal truths that hold true throughout all areas of the world, the universe, and hopefully throughout all dimensions. But there are some things that are personal truths, and we can share differences of personal truths, and we can still hold space for each other in a loving way. It is completely possible, but we have to stop and we have to listen. We have to hold space for those around us, and we have to have the expectation that they'll hold space for us. When that exchange happens, there is so much power of healing that can't be put into words, that no action, that no policy, that no anything else could ever bring into this space. We connect as human beings. We connect as people of differences, but in a similar pattern. We connect because we're all human And even if it's just a little bit, even if you're mostly alien, then you got a little bit of humanity in you if you're here. So we connect in a way that carries so much power. Right now, the world is throwing a tantrum, and justifiably so. It's not been heard. Individuals haven't been heard. It works across all sides. And when we allow for that division to happen to us, then we just carry on a new level of that not being heard. Listen and speak, both, but be willing to take your turn. Like my little one says, sharing is caring, right? And right now, we need to share spaces of love. We need to share little bubbles of love. And we need to be willing to hear, even if we don't understand. We need to be willing to answer the questions because we may be the only person of any difference that somebody else runs across. I may be the only weird, tattooed, locked up pagan that somebody in this southern community that I live in runs across. And I want to make sure that they walk away from our interaction knowing that there is love to be shared and that even though we have differences, we can come together for common connections. There is so much power in that. Just my 2 cents. Let's pull a card. So I'm using the Goddess deck. I've switched back to this one. I kind of predominantly like this one. I did the Alice in Wonderland one when the world was a little bit topsy-turvy, but I like the love that this Goddess deck kind of sends out. And if you don't know anything about Oracle cards, they're kind of like just, they can be used kind of like as a daily little pull, and you kind of look at them and you go, oh, okay, that's some wisdom I can apply to this day or to this moment, right? They can be used in multiple other ways, but that's kind of the base version of it. All right, so let's pull one. Matt or mate. So it says fairness. The situation will be handled in a fair and just manner. I think it can be. I think all the situations can be. I think we just got to be willing to do the hard work and the connection and the listening and the hearing and the speaking. And I think we have to be willing to do it out of love. Have a great week, guys.